You ever been so broke your stomach growls louder than your alarm clock? That was me. Most mornings I'd wake up to the sound of my own hunger echoing in a dusty studio apartment with peeling paint and a heater that coughed more than it warmed. I wasn't even living paycheck to paycheck, more like surviving on prayers and instant noodles. My name's Mason. 33 years old. Used to work at a hardware store, but it shut down during the second wave of that whole economic mess. Ever since, I've been juggling odd jobs, hauling junk, moving furniture, cleaning out basements filled with spiders the size of small cats. None of it steady and none of it enough. Rent was due in 4 days. $72 sat in my bank account like a cruel joke. I had 2 cans of tuna and a loaf of bread left in the pantry. Things were tight. That's when I found the wallet. It was a Tuesday. Cold. The kind of cold that finds the holes in your coat and stings like betrayal. I was walking down Main Street, coming back from a job interview at a car wash that didn't even pay minimum wage under the table. They smiled at me like they already knew I wasn't getting it. And there it was. Just sitting there on the sidewalk outside of Joe's Coffee like it had fallen right out of the sky. I looked around. No one seemed to notice. People hurried past me, heads down, collars up. I bent down, picked it up, and felt the weight of it, thick and smooth, black leather, the good kind. Inside, several hundred in crisp 20s, a gold corporate card, and a driver's license that read, Nathaniel Prescott, CEO Prescott and Lock Construction. I stood there stunned. That wallet was worth more than everything I owned. Rent, food, maybe even a coat that didn't smell like stale smoke. For a second, just a second, I considered it. I'm not proud of that. I was desperate. But then I saw a photo tucked in behind the license. A little girl with pigtails on a swing. His daughter, maybe. She looked happy, like she didn't know the world could chew you up and spit you out. I thought about my niece, about how she hugs me like I'm her hero even when I've got holes in my shoes. So I closed the wallet and walked straight to the address on the license. 30 blocks. I walked it. Could have taken the bus, but I didn't have the change. When I got there, I was staring up at a massive glass building with clean lines and polished steel. The kind of place where people wear suits and say things like synergy and touch base. I felt like a weed on a golf course. The receptionist gave me a look like I'd just crawled out of a drainage pipe. I told her I found Mr. Prescott's wallet. Her eyebrows rose. 10 minutes later, a man stepped into the lobby wearing a navy blue coat that looked like it cost more than my last 4 months' rent combined. Mid-50s, sharp hair, strong jaw, but tired eyes. You found my wallet? He asked, skeptical. I handed it over. Didn't even count the cash, sir. Just wanted to make sure it got back to the right hands. He opened it. Everything was there. I could see it on his face, relief, then surprise, then something else. What's your name? He asked, pocketing the wallet. Mason, I said. He studied me. You're not with the company? I laughed a little. No, sir. I clean garages for $50 a day. This was just the right thing to do. He didn't say anything at first. Just nodded. Then he pulled a business card from his coat and handed it to me. Come by this address tomorrow. Ask for me. And just like that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there like I'd been handed a golden ticket but had no clue what door it opened. I didn't sleep much that night. Between the roar of old pipes in the wall and my brain doing backflips, I was wide awake by 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling like it held answers. The card he gave me was thick, expensive feeling. Embossed gold letters. No gimmicks, just Nathaniel Prescott and an address on South Fulton. I must have flipped it over 100 times, half expecting it to disappear like a dream. By the time morning came, I was dressed and out the door before sunrise, wearing my best, meaningless torn, button-up and the same boots I'd had for 4 years. The soles flapped a little when I walked, like they were trying to say something. Maybe good luck, maybe hang in there. South Fulton wasn't a part of town I frequented. Too clean. Too polished. Even the sidewalks looked like they got mopped. I felt out of place the second I stepped off the bus. A few people gave me looks, just quick ones, but I felt anyway. I walked into the building. Different one this time. Smaller, older. Looked like it used to be some kind of train depot, now converted into offices. Same logo though, Prescott and Lock Construction etched onto the glass door like a badge of honor. A woman at the front desk greeted me with a warm smile that caught me off guard. You must be Mason, she said. Yeah, I replied, a little cautious. Mr. Prescott told me to stop by. He's expecting you. She buzzed me through. I walked down a hall that smelled like wood polish and fresh coffee. Every door I passed had serious titles on it. Operations, project development, contracts. Then I reached the one at the end. Just said, Nathaniel Prescott. I knocked. Heard a muffled, come in. He was behind a desk. No jacket this time. Sleeves rolled up. going over blueprints with a guy in a flannel shirt who looked more construction than corporate. When he saw me, he stood up and offered a hand. "Mason, glad you came." I shook it. Firm grip like he meant it. "This here's Joe," he said, nodding to the flannel guy. "He runs one of our job sites out in Mill Creek." Joe gave me a nod. "Heard you returned the boss's wallet. That's rare these days." I shrugged. Didn't seem like a hard choice. Prescott smiled at that, small, but genuine. He motioned for me to sit. "So, Mason, what is it you do, exactly?" I hesitated. "Whatever I can. Hauling, moving, odd jobs. I used to work at Hammer and Rail Hardware before it shut down." "Ever work construction?" "Some. Helped put up siding on a few houses. Done some painting, drywall here and there. Nothing official. I've always wanted to do more, just never had the shot." He looked at Joe. "What do you think?" Joe sized me up. "You willing to work hard? Learn on the go?" "Absolutely." Prescott nodded once. "All right then. Tomorrow morning. Mill Creek site. Be there at 7 sharp. Joe'll get you a vest and show you the ropes." My jaw nearly dropped. "Wait, you're serious?" "Dead serious," he said. "You earned that shot, Mason. Not a lot of folks would have done what you did. World could use more men like that on a team." I don't remember what I said next. Might have been thank you. Might have been something awkward and clumsy. But I walked out of that building with a job. A real one. The kind with hours and pay and potential. I stood out on the sidewalk for a long minute, breathing in cold air and watching the city move like it always had. But now, somehow, everything looked different. Like the world had cracked open a door I didn't even know was there. Tomorrow I'd be on a construction site. Hard hat, hammer, steel-toe boots. Paycheck. And I'd earned it with nothing more than a good decision. Funny how life works like that. I showed up at the Mill Creek site the next morning before the sun even thought about rising. The sky was still navy blue, and the air had that sharp bite that made you breathe through your sleeves. My nerves were dancing all over the place. First day jitters mixed with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Joe met me at the gate with a clipboard and a grin that looked like it had seen some things. "Thought you might bail," he said, handing me a bright orange vest and a hard hat that had definitely seen better days. "Not a chance," I said, pulling the vest on like it was armor. The site was busy already. Big machinery hummed and beeped like a language I didn't speak yet, and guys were shouting measurements, swinging hammers, moving like they belonged there. Smelled like fresh wood, diesel, and coffee. The kind of scent that seeps into your clothes and stays with you all day. Joe gave me the basics. Stay alert. Don't touch anything unless you've been told to. Watch your feet and your head. You see someone yelling, don't take it personal. We're all on the clock. He started me on grunt work. Hauling lumber, moving cinder blocks, sweeping sawdust, stuff that made my back ache by lunchtime. My hands were blistered by the second hour, and my thighs burned from climbing scaffold steps over and over. But I kept my mouth shut and my head down. I listened. I learned. I kept moving. "Not bad for a greenhorn," one of the guys said to me over a sandwich during the lunch break. I nodded, too hungry to speak. My peanut butter sandwich had squished in my pocket, but I ate it like it was a steak dinner. By the end of the first week, I was sore in places I didn't know I had. But I also started to get the rhythm of it. Framing walls, mixing concrete, checking levels. I watched the more experienced guys like they were teaching a class, and every time Joe tossed me a new task, I just said, I got it. Even when I didn't, because I'd figure it out. Prescott showed up on site Friday afternoon. Clean shirt, sturdy boots, clipboard in hand. He didn't walk around like he was better than anyone, just like a man who expected a job done right. He spotted me unloading a pallet of drywall and gave me a short nod. "Looking good out here," he said. "You settling in?" "Trying my best, sir," I said, wiping sweat off my brow. "Don't call me sir. Makes me feel older than I am," he grinned. "You've got a hell of a work ethic, Mason. Joe says you're a fast learner." I felt my chest tighten a little. Praise like that wasn't something I was used to. Definitely not from guys in tailored jeans who drove trucks that cost more than most houses I'd lived in. "Thank you," I said. "Means a lot." He paused, then said something that stuck with me. "You keep showing up like this, I don't see why you couldn't go far. Construction's not just muscle. It's craft. Leadership. Vision. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but he was already walking toward the scaffolding, clipboard in hand, calling out to one of the engineers. But that line echoed in my head the whole bus ride home. Go far. Leadership. Vision. Nobody'd ever said anything like that to me before. At home, my apartment still looked the same, cracked walls, humming fridge, the one chair with a wobbly leg, but something had shifted. I felt like a guy on the edge of something bigger, like the foundation of a whole new life was being poured right under my boots. I didn't know where it was headed. Not exactly. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally building something worth standing on. Weeks rolled by like lumber off a flatbed, fast and heavy. My body adjusted to the work, aches turned into muscle, calluses formed like badges, and my mornings stopped feeling like punishment. I'd get to the site before most, coffee in one hand, hammer in the other, ready to sweat through my shirt by 10 a.m. and proud of it. Joe wasn't much of a talker, but he showed me things. Real things. How to read blueprints. How to check the grain in a 2x4. How to tell when concrete's cured just right by the sound your boot makes on it. Stuff that doesn't come from a manual. You're not dumb, he told me once while we patched drywall on the 3rd floor of a new duplex. You just never got taught by someone who gave a damn. That line hit me square in the chest. Harder than I expected. He was right, too. Most of my life I've been figuring things out by scraping my knuckles and learning the hard way. But this felt different. This felt like a trade. A future. One morning, Joe handed me a clipboard and pointed to a section of the foundation where concrete was being poured. You're watching the crew today, he said. They screw it up, that slab cracks in 6 months. Costs thousands to fix. Me? I asked, like he'd mixed me up with someone more important. You. Prescott wants to see what you're made of. No pressure, right? I spent that whole day running numbers, measuring twice, pacing like an expectant father while guys 3 times my size followed my calls. I kept it together, barely. Made sure the pour went smooth, every inch level, every corner tight. And at the end of it, Joe slapped the clipboard back in my hands. Not bad, he said. Didn't screw it up. That was about as good as praise got from him. Later that week, Prescott called me into his office. Not the fancy downtown one, the small office on site, with dirt on the floor and a blueprint half covered in coffee rings. You've been stepping up, he said, pouring himself a cup from a pot that had been sitting for hours. I've been trying. You've been doing, he corrected. There's a difference. He sat across from me and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Let me ask you something. If you could build anything, what would it be? I blinked. Anything? Yeah. Dream big. No budget. No limitations. What would you put your name on? No one had ever asked me that. Not even in school. I scratched the back of my head, staring at a spot on the floor. Community center, I said finally. Back where I grew up. Whole neighborhood's falling apart. Kids got nowhere to go. Nobody teaches them anything useful. Place like that, open gym, trade programs, real people showing up, it could change things. He smiled. Not a full grin, but enough to show something lit up in his head. Good answer, he said. Real good. Then he stood up and clapped a hand on my shoulder. Let's see how far you're willing to go. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But it wasn't the old, gnawing anxiety. It was fire. That kind of spark that makes your heart beat faster even when you're lying still. Maybe this was more than just a job. Maybe for once in my life, I was walking straight into something I didn't have to run from. About a month after that talk in the site office, I was waking up before my alarm, full of purpose. My days had structure, my hands had skill, and my mind finally had vision. I wasn't just swinging a hammer anymore. I was building something, one board, one bolt, one step at a time. Prescott started inviting me to meetings. Not the big boardroom ones with catered lunches and stiff collars, these were small, sharp, and real. A couple of site leads, some blueprints, coffee that tasted like engine grease, and a whiteboard that looked like a war map. First time I sat in, I didn't say much. Just watched, listened, took notes like my life depended on it. By the 3rd meeting, I started asking questions. Good ones, apparently, 'cause Prescott looked at me like I wasn't just some lucky break anymore. You ever think about foreman work? He asked after one meeting. I nearly choked on my coffee. Me? I'm still learning how to keep drywall straight. He chuckled. That's what makes you valuable. You know you've got more to learn. That humility, it's rare. After that, he took me under his wing in a different way. Started teaching me how the business side worked. Budgets, permits, inspections, scheduling. Stuff you don't see from the scaffolding. Sometimes he'd take me on drives to different sites, places his company had built years ago. Schools, apartment buildings, even a church with stained glass that caught the sunset like fire. He'd point and say things like, that roofline? Took 3 weeks to get it right. Or we almost lost the contract on that one, but we pulled it off. He was proud not just of what he built but of how it got built. Honest work. Good crews. Real sweat equity. One time we passed a small, boarded-up building on the corner of 18th and Birch. Graffiti on the brick, busted windows, weeds tall enough to brush the streetlights. Prescott slowed the truck down. "You recognize that?" he asked. "No," I said. "That used to be a youth rec center. I helped put the floors in when I was just getting started." He sighed. "Place went under when the funding dried up. Broke my heart." I looked at it and felt something tighten in my chest. "Could have been my neighborhood," I said. "Still could be." He turned to me with a spark in his eyes. "Still can be fixed." The truck rolled on. But something stuck in my head. That feeling of potential. That itch to build something that mattered. Later that week, he handed me a folder. Inside was a proposal. Architectural drawings. Budget estimates. A location I knew well. "This," he said, "is what I want you to lead." I stared at the name on the front. Millstone Youth Center, Phase 1. I looked at him like he'd grown another head. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," he said. "You've got the heart for it. I've got the funding. And that neighborhood." He pointed at the page. "They need a guy like you." My mouth opened, but nothing came out for a second. "I don't have the experience," I finally said. "I mean, this is huge." He leaned in. "Mason, you found a wallet and returned it when you had nothing. That told me everything I needed to know. Skills can be taught. Character? That's in your bones." I swallowed hard. My hands shook a little, flipping through the pages. I didn't feel ready. Not even close. But there was something in me, something bigger than fear. Maybe pride. Maybe purpose. "I'll do it," I said. He smiled wide this time. "Good. Let's go build something that'll outlive both of us." First day leading the Millstone Youth Center project, I stood on the empty lot at sunrise. Blueprint tube under one arm and nerves crawling up my spine like a freight train. The space was just dirt and weeds now, but I saw it clear as day. Basketball courts, open classrooms, fresh paint on brick walls. A place that could change lives. I'd been walking past this lot since I was a teenager. Back then, it was a playground. Then the city shut it down, tore up the pavement, and let time do the rest. Now, I was the one meant to bring it back to life. Me. I wasn't some hotshot architect with a degree and a portfolio. I was a guy who used to beg for side work and eat tuna straight from the can. Now I had a title, site lead. My own trailer. A small crew. A radio on my hip and a phone that didn't stop ringing. The first few weeks were chaos wrapped in concrete dust. The plumbing lines got delayed. The first shipment of steel framing showed up dented. And some zoning paperwork got kicked back for missing a signature. Every day, something new fell on my shoulders. And every day I fought like hell to hold the line. But I had help. Joe dropped by once a week to check the structure and curse about the weather. Prescott checked in almost daily, always giving me space but never letting me feel alone. And the crew? Hell, they were solid. A couple of young guys, 2 veterans, 1 woman who could outwork any man I'd ever met. They didn't care where I came from. They cared if I knew what I was doing. And when I didn't, I owned it. Fastest way to earn their respect, I learned, was admitting when I needed help. Then came the press. Prescott's company wanted a little PR for backing a community project. And suddenly I found myself standing in front of cameras, talking about blueprints and hope with microphones shoved in my face. I tried not to sound like a fool. Said things like, "This place matters. And we're building more than walls. We're building futures." Prescott clapped me on the back afterward. "You might have a knack for speeches. Please don't make that a habit," I said, sweating through my shirt. But the attention worked. Donations rolled in. Volunteers started showing up, kids from the neighborhood, retired teachers, even a local artist who offered to paint murals on the inside walls. The energy shifted. It wasn't just our project anymore. It was theirs. The community's. Then, one afternoon, just as we finished framing the main hall, I spotted a group of boys leaning through the chain-link fence, watching us. Middle school age, baggy hoodies, that tough look kids wear when they're really just curious. I walked over. "You guys live around here?" I asked. They nodded. "This used to be a park," one of them said. "My older brother said it had a skate ramp and everything." "Well," I said, "it's about to be better than that." They stared at me like they weren't sure if I was for real. So I did something maybe dumb, maybe brilliant. I handed one of them my hard hat. "Want to see what it looks like inside?" His face lit up. Next thing I knew, I was walking a group of kids through the framing, showing them where the music room would be, the computer lab, the rec court. Their excitement was contagious. Prescott found us mid-tour. Watched for a minute without saying a word. After the kids left, he turned to me. "That," he said, "is what makes all of this worth it." And he was right. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just working to survive. I was working to leave something behind. Something good. The grand opening of the Millstone Youth Center landed on a Saturday in early spring, one of those crisp days when the sky looks like it got scrubbed clean and even the breeze feels proud. I arrived hours early, half to finish last-minute details and half because I was too wired to sleep. Everything was done. The walls were painted inside and out. The gym floor gleamed like a mirror. Classrooms were stocked with tools, instruments, even a small computer lab. The murals in the hallways, bright and wild and bursting with life, told stories of the neighborhood's past and maybe hinted at its future. And somehow all of it had my name somewhere on the inside. Not carved into a plaque or anything. Just there. In every beam, every bolt. In the sweat we poured into it. In the second chances and the long nights. By noon, the lot out front was packed. Kids, parents, city officials, local news crews. Folks I hadn't seen in years came by just to say thank you. Prescott stood off to the side, arms crossed, smiling like a proud dad. He let me do the speech. I stood up on a small wooden platform we'd thrown together at the last minute, palms sweating, heart beating like a drum. And for once, I didn't feel out of place. I felt like I belonged. I looked out over the crowd, faces full of hope, some skeptical, some stunned, and I just spoke from the gut. "I used to walk past this place every day," I said. "Used to think it would never come back. That nobody cared. That places like this and people like me just got forgotten. But I was wrong. All it takes is one moment, one person believing in you, and everything can change." I paused, looked straight at Prescott. "I found a wallet once. Thought about keeping it. But I didn't. I gave it back, and in return I got a shot. A real one. And I'm standing here now to tell every kid in this neighborhood, you matter. You belong. And this place? It's yours." People clapped. Some cried. I kept it together barely. The ribbon was cut. Kids rushed in like water breaking through a dam. Music started playing. Laughter echoed through the halls. Life moved in. Prescott walked up beside me, hands in his coat pockets. "You did good, Mason." I looked around at everything we'd built. "We did good." He smirked. "Still want to be a foreman?" I shook my head. "Nah. I want more." He raised an eyebrow. "More." "I want to learn it all," I said. "Design. Planning. Management. One day maybe even build my own company. The kind that looks for guys like I used to be." He nodded, slow, thoughtful. "Then let's get to work." And just like that, the next chapter started. No cape. No spotlight. Just a man with dirt under his nails, a dream in his heart, and the kind of story you can't make up. I didn't find a fortune in that wallet. But I found something better. A purpose. And that's worth more than all the cash in the world.